Hey, thank you so much for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. This is a very important video because there is a lot of information out there regarding the VA's proposal to actually eliminate tinnitus as a rating. Now, look, the VA has not done anything yet. It's still in the proposed status. However, the VA did change, I don't even know, 7 or 8 or more different rating schedules within their overall schedule of ratings. So they have also said that they will change all of their rating schedules. And guess what? Auditory is one they have not changed yet, but it's proposed. Now, look, there are some other changes that are proposed as well, but I'm focused on tinnitus. And why? Because if you have tinnitus ringing in the ears, it's important that you file for that if you have not. In the event that you are trying to get more of your claims actually service connected, if you're already 100% permanent and total, then there's probably no point, right? But if you're not, and you have a lower overall rating and you're trying to get everything involved with your service connections and increase your rating, then this is a way to do that. However, you would need to do it before the VA enacts this proposal if they do. Now, did you know that there is an aid out there for the VA that helps them determine whether your MOS caused your tinnitus or not? Or is it at least likely as not to have caused your tinnitus? Yes, there is. And I'm going to read through it here. And what I'll do is I'll put the information in the description, and then I will put a comment in there with the with one of the websites in which you can go to and actually click on it. It's one of the cleanest versions I found. I had some old PDFs that were all crooked, and you can only read maybe every other word. So this is the cleanest version I found, and I'm going to share this with you. So please, I'm going to read through this. This is very important. I want you to share it. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. Hitting that thumbs up is super important, and same with letting the video run. That is what is going to get this into the hands of those that need it. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, please consider becoming a member. You can do that by going to the home page of the channel and looking under the highlighted members section. There should be a join button somewhere there. All right, so let's jump into it. Duty MOS, and you can also insert AFSC for Air Force, which is the only, you guys are the only ones not MOS. It is what it is. So it doesn't say AFSC on this, it just says MOS. So you just insert that. So anyway, Duty MOS noise exposure listing, tinnitus, hearing loss. What is the Duty MOS noise exposure listing? Let's read and find out. The Duty MOS noise exposure listing is a VA rating job aid for assisting in determinations for service connection of hearing loss and or tinnitus. So this helps the VA go, you know what? Yeah, it is because of their service. I mean, their MOS. It lines up. It makes it easy. You have to remember that all people working at the VA are not veterans, and they don't understand all of it. It's just somebody who got a job and they work at the VA, and they're trying to do whatever they do, and they don't know. So this helps them go, oh, artillery is loud, and it's highly likely that this person's going to have hearing loss because they were in artillery, right? So because, I don't know, they don't know. All right, let's move on. The Duty MOS noise exposure listing compiles all the Department of Defense verified lists of military occupational specialties, that's the MOSs, corresponding probability of hazardous noise exposure. The Duty MOS noise exposure listing attempts to standardize the processing of hearing loss and tinnitus claims. On September 2nd, 2010, the Department of Veterans Affairs released this guidance to include logic behind the tinnitus rating decisions. The letter stated that when a hearing loss or tinnitus claim is received, the rater must review the claim for the following items: sufficient evidence of a current hearing disability. This can include lay evidence provided by the veteran on VA Form 21-4138. Okay, this is your own statement, and I did a video a few days ago on some forms, and I think I labeled it something like, "This is why you're having issues with your service connection, right? Because you didn't provide the lay evidence." So lay evidence is statements, right? So as a mortarman, I had my head 6 inches from the base plate of a 81 millimeter and 120 millimeter mortar, firing off rounds consistently, and my ears would ring for hours after live fires. So anyway, that would be a lay statement from you, right? Evidence of hearing loss and or tinnitus while serving. Other acceptable items for this evidence is records documenting an event, injury, disease, or symptoms of a disease potentially related to an audiological, if that's how you say it, disability. So the biggest issue is that there is often no documented evidence, right? And look, if you're not providing evidence and you get it in the hands of a rater that doesn't really have a clue, then they might deny. So the duty MOS noise exposure listing will also be considered to establish the in-service illness, injury, or event. Now, I'm going to tell you my thought here in a minute. I'm going to finish reading this piece. When the duty MOS noise exposure listing is used, the probability of hazard noise exposure will be considered based on the following probability. So it's going to have your MOS, your branch of service, your MOS, and the probability of likelihood of having a hearing issue. Highly probable, moderately probable, or low probability, right? So the example would be artillery, highly probable. Legal assistant, low probability, right? So let's move on. If either highly or moderate probability is associated to the MOS or specialty code, they added that in there, then the VA will concede the event, meaning they will acknowledge an event occurred, and this does not have to be proven in your in-service treatment records. So in other words, it's almost like your MOS creates essentially a presumptive condition at that point. So essentially, it's kind of how they look at it. It's not guaranteed. They kind of look at it that way. So then the VA will concede the event, meaning they will acknowledge an event occurred, and this does not have to be proven in your service treatment records. This does not mean that this is a presumptive condition. There are still two requirements to establish service connection. You have to have a diagnosis, and you have to have a favorable nexus tying the diagnosis to the event. So look, the event is, this was my MOS, and that's what I did for 4 years, 6 years, 30 years, whatever you did. That is your nexus, and the diagnosis is you got to go get diagnosed, right? So in a typical claim, you would also require an event or aggravation of an in-service event. So that's whatever. Moving on. Therefore, in an event, if the event you are on the highly probable or moderate list, the VA has to provide a VA C&P examination to provide an opinion and medical nexus. So this is where this happens, right? So now you've provided I'm going to add this in here. So on your statement on the 21-4138, which is the form in which you could provide your own statement regarding your condition, if it's for tinnitus, for example. If your MOS shows that you're moderately or probably highly probable of having hearing issues due to your MOS or AFSC, then utilize the 21-4138 fill that form out with your statement. In your statement, you want to make sure that you call out the fact that my duty MOS is listed on the duty MOS noise exposure listing and slated as highly probable or moderately probable of having hearing and tinnitus issues. I have had tinnitus or hearing problems since a year in, right? After my training for X or whatever it is. You want to make sure that you call it out. This is just me. I would want to call it out on that, so that way when it gets in the hands of the VA rater, they see it on there and they go, oh yeah, I forgot about that list, or I never heard about that list, or it might prompt them to ask a question if they're not aware, right? No, nobody knows everything and people forget things all the time. So a gentle reminder is good. So that will then allow the VA to push your tinnitus claim, we'll just use tinnitus, forward and get you in front of the C&P examiner, in which you're going to have the conversation of, look, I never had ringing and humming and buzzing in my ears before. I joined the X and I served as a Y, and 1 year in, the ringing never stopped. It would always happen after, right? So we'll just use like artillery or mortars, right? Boom, 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 boom. You're firing, and then you got some sound in your ear that doesn't go away for a while, and then it kind of goes away. And then eventually it just kind of doesn't ever go away. It's just always there, or it comes and goes even. That can happen too. So you want to get in front of the C&P examiner. So here it says, again, that once you're on the highly probable or moderate list, the VA has to provide a VA C&P examination to provide an opinion and medical nexus. When the C&P examination of the request is fulfilled, the VA must tell the examiner that you fit the two higher levels of probability in the body of the C&P exam request. Additionally, the veteran's duty position should also be provided to the examiner. This list is not an exhaustive list of all MOSs and specialty codes from the history of the armed services, because they've changed over time, right? They changed the names, the designations, the numbers and letters for each MOS, some of them change. So you just have to go through and find the thing that is the closest to you by the actual name, right? So therefore, if you had an MOS that is not displayed on the list, you will have to translate it. For instance, in the Army, there used to be an 11M MOS for Army Fighting Vehicle infantrymen. In 2001, this MOS was retired. However, in the Army, any 11 series is an infantry MOS. Therefore, you can quickly surmise that this MOS should fall into this category of infantry. Every infantry MOS listed on the list shows highly probable for the infantry. Just because you are in the moderate or high levels of probability does not mean you are going to be awarded tinnitus. The veteran still must establish enough evidence for the C&P examiner to evaluate and make a medical opinion. Therefore, it is always a good idea to outline the noise exposure you were exposed to in your lay statement. Again, if you were mortars, your head was next to the base plate, 6 inches away. If you pulled up what are the decibel ratings? I'm sure that's somewhere. How loud was this thing, right? If you could pull up any of that type of information and include that into your lay statement, that would be good as well. It is important to have this information to ensure you have a good C&P examination. Do more than less, right? Don't rely on them to go, oh, you did that? Okay, well then you should have this. No, paint the picture, right? You have to pretend that this person has zero clue of what your MOS looked like. So you need to detail it out from a noise exposure kind of setting. Additionally, it is important to understand while you pursue your tinnitus claim, you should seek treatment for any additional conditions that could be caused by tinnitus, such as migraines, depression, anxiety, insomnia, right? Now, granted, your depression, anxiety, and insomnia would all be lumped together and fall under the mental health rating, but nonetheless, you need to make sure that you are tracking those secondary conditions so that way you can also file for those. Very important. Now, there's a whole long list. It's every branch, like I said. It's got even the so the one that it doesn't have is the Space Force, but it does have the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard. It also has Merchant Marine listed on here as well. So I want to make sure that we get this out, and I'm going to put information again in the description, and then I will put this link to these with clickable kind of spots where you can open up under your branch of service. You click on it, it'll open up a list of the MOSs. You find your MOS or something that is close to your MOS, and you can find out if it's probable or moderate or not likely. All right, with that, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great one, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.